Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. I want to talk to you today about those horrific hurricanes, the ones, Helene and Milton, that have been savaging, particularly Florida, the Carolinas, and other parts of the United States and other countries in the Caribbean. And I want to talk about something that doesn't get the attention it deserves, and that is the insurance business, or maybe the insurance hustle would be the better way to describe it. It's particularly alarming how it is being worked out in Florida. So I'm going to talk about Florida, but what I say also applies almost everywhere else. And I'm going to talk about insurance against flooding, the kind of damage that floods can do when they result from hurricanes. But again, what I'm talking about could apply to health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, and every other kind of insurance. Here's the problem. In Florida, insurance companies, private insurance companies, which were the only ones for a long time, did what all profit driven enterprises do. They jacked up their rates and they quarreled with people who made claims and didn't pay out as much as they could have and should have. What do I mean? Well, in a way, you all know, an insurance game, hustle, business is handled this way. You pay the insurance companies a premium, money every month or a few times a year. And then, if and when you have a claim, you go to them and you ask them to give you compensation for what you lost. That's why you purchased the insurance policy in the first place. But now let's understand what a profit making enterprise is all about. Their profit, the insurance company, depends on the difference between the premiums they can get you to pay. On the one hand, that's their income, versus the payout to you when you make a claim. That's their expenses. And the profit is the difference between them. That means if you're a profit driven private enterprise, you are incentivized to jack up the rates, that's your income, and to press down the payout for people who have a problem. And that's what they do. They charge as much as they can get away with, and they pay as little as they can get away with. That's why people in Florida, having suffered storms and other natural disasters, got so fed up 20 years ago with the private companies ripping them off that they got the legislature in Florida to set up a public citizens insurance company. And it offered better rates and better payout than the private profit driven enterprises did. For a while, that solved the problem. But the private insurance companies didn't like it. They didn't want competition from the governmental agency, no matter that they are the ones who caused it to come into being. They like competition on the 4th of July when the CEO gives a speech. But in the real world every day, they hate it. So they went to work to undo what the government of Florida did 20 years ago. And with Mr. DeSantis as the governor, a far right wing conservative, they got what they wanted. Imagine it now as we struggle with Helene and Milton, two awful storms hurting and killing large numbers of people. Mr. DeSantis and Florida are doing what? Selling off, transferring public policies of the citizens, the public company, and selling them to who? You guessed it, the private insurance companies, so that they can do what? Well, what they've always done: charge higher rates and quarrel with you more to limit, to reduce, to cut their compensation when you suffer uninsured loss. It's disgusting. Mr. DeSantis has an ideology: private is good, public is bad. The evidence, which does not support that for 1 minute, is ignored. This is a religious, ideological commitment of people like him. Oh, and it doesn't help that the private insurance companies are big donors to the politicians who they want to help them control. So, what are we left with? The same ugly picture that the insurance hustle always produces. When you leave insurance to the private enterprise, profit seeking business, you get a very ugly result. Too much money is charged, too much is not paid out to the victims who demand compensation. And that's what's happened. When you make it private, here's what will be the final result, because it's what it's always been. Middle income and poor people will be unable to afford the expensive insurance. Even those middle income people who can afford insurance will discover, if they make a claim, that the insurance company doesn't pay it, or pays only a portion of it, or delays it, or all of those. The rich people won't care because A, they can afford the best policies, and B, because they're rich, even if the insurance company stiffs them, they'll be okay. That's what it means to be rich. Meanwhile, the middle and the poor, who don't insure because they can't afford it, or don't insure enough, or can't get a good settlement, they'll become more poor. And the growing split between rich and poor in our culture will only get worse. Imagine the alternative. Imagine that we had a community, a country, in which the accident of which way a hurricane turned, what neighborhood was devastated versus what neighborhood was spared. Imagine a country in which those of us who didn't get hurt helped those of us who did. We all understand that there but for the grace of God go we. Those who are hurt one time will be able to help the rest of us who are hurt another time. What a society it would be if we helped each other. Let the government be the in-between. It doesn't have to make a profit. It can help some of us compensate for the difficulty. You know, it's the same thing with health insurance. Who gets sick, who doesn't, who's injured, who isn't, where the fire spreads, where it doesn't. Making the people who can't afford it lose on insurance is hurting the people who need it most. It is a bad way to run a country. It's a bad way to run a society. It is blowing this country up as the gap between rich and poor gets worse. And insurance is a major player in causing what ails us. We can do better than capitalism, and we should have been doing it all along. If interventions and presentations like this strike you as useful, please share them with your friends, relatives, co-workers. That's why we make them. And of course, and let me be very honest with you, this costs money to do. And if you can help by providing a donation to defray the costs, that will make it that much easier for this kind of work to be produced and distributed across the country that needs it, probably more now than ever. Thank you.